Egypt isn't just an ancient country, it is a palimpsest. Palimpsest, an old manuscript scraped away to make room for new text, yet faint traces of the old words still show through. In Egypt, history is written on the land itself. The pharaohs, pyramids and temples, the Greeks, cities and Greek inscriptions on stone, the Romans, provincial rule, Roman architecture, early Christians, desert monasteries, Muslim rulers, minarets and mosques. Each civilization wrote its own story, but none erased what came before. The layers remain, visible to those who look closely. This layering is what makes Egypt compelling, not one story, but many stacked on the same stage. To travel through Egypt is to read this palimpsest, stand in a temple first built by a pharaoh, see where a Roman emperor added his image, hear the call to prayer from a nearby mosque. The Nile flood was the simple, annual miracle upon which every Egyptian empire depended. It was not a chaotic or destructive event, it was a predictable and welcome one. Beginning in the summer, the waters would slowly rise, fed by heavy rains far to the south in the Ethiopian highlands. The river would swell and gently spill over its low banks, covering the narrow floodplain on either side. For several weeks, much of the agricultural land would disappear under a shallow sheet of water. A pause in the farming calendar. This was when the state redirected labor, a crucial factor in building Egypt's monuments. When the waters receded in autumn, they left a priceless gift, a fresh layer of dark, fertile silt. Kemet. Farmers could easily plow this soft soil and sow their seeds, primarily wheat and barley. The harvest was usually abundant, feeding everyone and creating a surplus, the economic bedrock of the state. It could be collected as taxes, stored in granaries against famine, and used to pay scribes, soldiers, priests, and thousands of workers. This yearly cycle defined seasons, structured the economy, and shaped the soul of the culture. A living manifestation of Ma'at. Order, truth, and justice. The gods were benevolent for providing life. The pharaoh maintained harmony to ensure the flood arrived. The river itself was a deity, Hapi, celebrated for bounty. The Nile was also a highway, in a land with little timber and formidable deserts. It unified Upper and Lower Egypt, moving grain, stone, and officials, the channel of transport and communication. The Old Kingdom was Egypt's first great age of unity and prosperity, when the power of the pharaoh was absolute and unquestioned. This era gave the world its most iconic monuments, the Great Pyramids. More than tombs, they were resurrection machines, designed to ensure the king's journey into the afterlife and preserve divine power for eternity. They express a society that believed its ruler was a living god, a bridge between earthly and divine. Building a pyramid required staggering logistics. The state mobilized massive workforces, largely farmers during the flood season when fields were underwater. Government fed, housed, and organized tens of thousands. Stone was quarried, shipped along the Nile, and dragged over land. Aligned to cardinal points and constellations, their precision reveals advanced engineering and astronomy. Their shape may echo the primeval mound emerging from chaos, or a stone ramp for the king's soul, ascending to the heavens. Within lay all the king needed for the next life. Around him sprawled tombs of family and officials, a city of the dead. This supreme confidence rested on a simple gift: the river. The flood's surplus freed labor, and fed builders. The river ferried stone. Stability was underwritten by predictable bounty. For all their celestial meaning, the pyramids were products of the Nile's black earth, the first and most powerful layer on Egypt's palimpsest. A declaration in stone that a mighty human order had arrived. Stone, stars, and river, woven into eternity. Yet even eternity began with a flood. After the grandeur of the Old Kingdom, Egypt entered disunity. Central authority weakened, local governors rose, the first intermediate period, but the Nile still flooded and unity remained an ideal. Theban rulers reconquered and reunited Egypt. The Middle Kingdom began. An age of restoration, reflection, and new royal ideology, powerful, yet shepherds of their people. A literary flowering expressed justice and concern for common welfare. Kings invested in drainage and irrigation, especially in the Fayum, expanding arable land and productivity. Monumental building continued, shifting from vulnerable pyramids to temple networks, notably Amun-Ra at Karnak. Temples were economic engines, managing land, and labor. Art turned introspective, careworn kings bearing the burden of rule. A mature civilization, renewed after collapse, focused on unity and provision. Memory of pyramids endured, but projects now reinforced the land's cohesion. I shall saswadis shanin, I shall sabida ko and mao, ping shall sadi, in beer the game, king deed or king, imparted vrumfar. Party Jordan caused and powered by the river, repair and renewal flowed from the predictable rhythms of the Nile. Once again, strength came from the unchanging gift of the river. Section 5, the New Kingdom, Empire, Temples, and Hidden Tombs, the peak of Egypt's power. After Hyksos' rule in the north, a new dynasty from Thebes expelled invaders and forged an empire. For the first time, Egyptian armies marched beyond traditional borders. Nubia, Sinai, the Levant. Wealth poured in, tribute, trade goods, gold. Prosperity fueled a massive construction boom that dwarfed even the Old Kingdom. Pharaohs were prolific builders. Hatshepsut, Thutmose III, Akhenaten, Ramesses the Great. They transformed Karnak into a city of gods, towering columns, massive pylons, colonnades, and obelisks. Across the river rose Luxor Temple, stone statements of imperial might. Walls blazed with victories and the pharaoh's special bond with the gods. The scale was meant to overwhelm. Pharaohs abandoned pyramids, choosing a remote necropolis, the Valley of the Kings. Tombs tunneled into limestone cliffs with carefully hidden entrances. Inside, the king's journey through the underworld. Treasures, furniture, chariots, jewelry, golden sarcophagi. An age of gods and gold. The Amun-Ra cult grew wealthy and powerful, yet everything rested on the Nile. Grain fed the armies to Syria, grain fed the workers carving tombs, grain fed the priests in colossal temples. The new kingdom added a golden layer to Egypt's palimpsest, sustained by the river, empire's grandeur, rooted in annual miracle. For nearly 3,000 years, native pharaohs ruled, but no empire lasts forever. In 332 BCE, Alexander arrived and was welcomed as a liberator from Persian rule. He honored traditions and was declared son of Amun. After his death, the empire split. Ptolemy took Egypt. The Ptolemaic dynasty ruled for 3 centuries. A new Greek layer was written over the Pharaonic text. The Ptolemies ruled as pharaohs, but they were Greek. They adopted Egyptian titles and duties, depicted themselves in Pharaonic style, and built and restored temples to prove legitimacy. They brought Greek language and administration. Greek became the language of government. Greek-style cities rose. A hybrid culture emerged. Worship Isis in the morning, read Homer in the afternoon. Alexandria, founded by Alexander, became a magnificent capital, a cosmopolitan hub of trade, culture, and learning. The Pharaohs, a wonder of the ancient world. The great library drew the brightest minds. Mathematics, astronomy, geography, literature flourished. Egypt remained the Mediterranean's breadbasket. The Nile surplus made the kingdom fabulously wealthy. A new capital and language, still powered by the ancient rhythm of the flood. Cleopatra VII's defeat in 30 BCE brought Egypt into Rome. For Rome, Egypt was a prize. It became the emperor's personal domain, for one timeless reason: grain. Egypt's reliable harvests fed Rome's masses. Securing supply stabilized empire and emperor. Pragmatic Romans maintained Ptolemaic systems as long as taxes and shipments flowed. They presented themselves as pharaohs, making offerings to Egyptian gods, Horus, Hathor, binding priestly loyalty. Roman culture arrived in stone and law, yet local traditions persisted. In the Fayum, realistic mummy portraits appeared, haunting faces from a multicultural province. Tourists sailed to Giza and marveled at the Colossi of Memnon. Temples thrived. Hieroglyphs continued. Latin and Greek inscriptions marked power. The Roman chapter was another layer. Emperors depended on the Nile's flood as much as any pharaoh. The river's miracle fed not just a country, but an empire. Whoever ruled Egypt served its great river. As Rome aged, Christianity spread, finding fertile ground in Egypt's afterlife faith and Osiris. Tradition says Saint Mark brought the faith to Alexandria. It spread rapidly. Egyptian Christians, the Copts, formed their own church, language, and theology. Christianity wrote a new layer. Some temples fell to sand, others became churches, crosses over ancient gods. Egypt birthed monasticism, men and women seeking solitude in the desert, pioneered by Saint Anthony. In the 7th century, Arab armies brought Islam, beginning another great transformation. Islam became dominant. Arabic replaced Coptic and Greek. Fustat grew into Cairo. Mosques, schools, and citadels rose. Minarets reshaped the soundscape. Yet continuities remained. The Coptic community endured. The Nile continued its work. Arab governors, like Roman emperors and Greek kings, knew control of Egypt meant control of agriculture. Taxation and irrigation adapted. Nile grain-fed caliphates. The palimpsest thickened, Pharaonic, Greek, Roman, Islamic, but the parchment remained the same, the fertile land beside the river. New faiths, same river. Egypt is a palimpsest, a land where history is not buried but remains visible, layered. The first and deepest layer was written in stone by the pharaohs, pyramids, temples, tombs, a narrative of divine kingship and eternal life. The Greeks added philosophy and commerce from brilliant Alexandria. The Romans wrote administration and extraction, feeding their distant capital. Then came Christianity and Islam, each adding sacred art and architecture. Through all chapters, one thread remains unbroken. The Nile. The simple miracle that made everything else possible. Its annual flood created the surplus behind every dynasty and project. It did not care if ruler was Pharaoh, Ptolemy, Caesar, or Caliph. It simply provided the means to power. The river gave life. People used that life to build civilizations, from pyramid builders to Roman clerks to mosque masons. They drank the same water and ate grain from the same black earth. Walk the banks today and read the Palimpsest in real time. You see the green strip, even with the flood tamed, a pharaoh's column beside a living village. The stones hold stories, and the river connects them all. The heart of Egypt.